Mm-hmm. Let's see. We live. Me going over the end real quick. I'm trying to make sure. Dang, I need to pull mine up too while I'm thinking about it. I'll do it once I stop real quick. Well, no, I ain't gonna share real quick. Let me stop. All right, let me go on the other end. Wait a minute. Okay. 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 Oh yeah, I forgot Vasa got class today. They had class today. Um, yeah, I see. I see it. Let me copy this. Yeah. Oh, okay, so that is. All right. Oh man, I want to say ETM Hotel. Do our Aku, do our Necha. Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Iwa um, Majuba Iba Egungun, Majuba Iba Egungun, Majuba Iba Ilakba, Majuba Iba Ilakba. I always want to give honor and praises to the ancestors because, again, without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. Welcome back to Kofi Pie Side TV. Brother Sutek and I are going to be going in on the Cowrie shells. Um, yeah, going in on the Cowrie shells. Give us just a second. I want to share the link, man. Go ahead and start sharing the link. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So take it real quick, man. And we'll get into it in just a second. Let me lock it on you, though. Hold on, I'm gonna mute myself too, Sutek.
Okay. Peace to everybody coming in. Peace to everybody that'll see it later. We're going to be touching on the uses of the cowrie shells in Africa. Hopefully, this will be an educational presentation. Hopefully, you take something from it, learn something. My brother Kofi will be coming after me and we'll be building on some of the things that I didn't touch on. So it's going to be a good. It's going to be real powerful. So just give us a second. Hanging out with us, family. Trying to share the link, bring some extra people in, let them know that we going live right now. We will be starting in just a minute. Yeah, this gonna be a powerful one. I know a lot of us know about the cowrie shells being used as currency. I know some of us don't know, but a lot of us do know that. But it was a lot of other uses for the cowrie shells in Africa too. So we're gonna touch on that, and brother Kofi gonna touch on certain aspects of the currency, uh, the cowrie shell currency
You,
also.
brother Sutek, you breaking up some. I stopped sharing for a minute to let you know you was kind of breaking up, kind of bad.
Let me try to fix that. Okay, do I sound any better now?
Oh yeah, you sound good now. Yep. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. I'm finna hey, let's start up video, man, and we can jump straight on into it. I'm gonna go back and put myself on mute when I share my screen. I'm gonna put myself on mute, man, and play my little intro video to my show, and then after that, man, you can go right on in.
Okay.
Yeah, lock it back on you.
Hey, Kofi, I don't think it could be heard. Hey, Kofi, I don't think it could be heard.
What you mean the intro video wasn't heard?
Yeah, I heard a minute.
Yeah, I muted myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, say something else. Sound like you were breaking up again.
Am I clear?
You sounded this like you kind of in a hole a little bit. Y'all give us just a second. We have a little technical difficulty. Give us just a second. We're gonna get right on into it.
Okay, do I sound better now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go back sharing my screen. Well, I'm already sharing my screen. We go back here. All right. All right. Is it sharing on the other end?
Yeah, it's showing on my end.
Hold on, let me go back. Okay. Are we good to go? Go back on here myself. All right.
Okay, people. So, I love y'all. B. Peace, family. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace to everybody that will see this video later. I appreciate y'all for coming through the Kofi Pasa TV, checking out this presentation. Me and my brother Kofi gonna put together. Uh, Basically, it's about the uses of cowrie shells and
You going
alcohol.
you going in and out again. Yeah, it's like you going in and out. Like it'll get high, then it get low.
How about now?
Mm-hmm. You good.
Okay, yeah, just stop me if I start going in and out again.
All right.
But yeah, we just dealing with the uses of the cowrie shells in Africa. I know many people already know about the cowrie shell being used as currency, but there was a few other uses for the cowrie shells that we're gonna get into. And my brother Kofi gonna come after me and build on some topics that have to deal with the currency uses of the cowrie shells and how they was banned and so on. So let's get into it. Go to the first slide. Okay, seashells in general belong to the vast family of marine gastropod mollusks, which are a myriad mix of animals. They have been used by humans as food supply. They have been used by humans as a food supply, naturally decorated and collected items from the sea as currency, decoration, adornment, signaling horns, protective amulets, and tools for spiritual divination. Cowrie shells derive from small snail like creatures native to the Indian and Pacific Oceans became important in the culture and region of Africa. Cowries are generally seen on rocky areas of the seabed. The European term porcelain comes from the old Italiana. Somebody come on?
No,
I think
that
that's Sean.
yeah, Sean just came popped in, but you probably hearing rain. Hold on, let me put my headphones in. Okay. Is that better? Cause it's pouring down raining now. You good?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, the European term porcelain comes from the old Italian porcellana, which means cowrie shell, because of its resemblance to the surface of the shell. The
Hey, hold
word
on.
cowrie.
Hold on. My bad, bro. I'm gonna have to mute myself, man. Zane saying that you sound good, but the screen off, and it is off because any less sound that's make over here is
It's gonna
gonna
muffle, yeah. I feel.
yeah, it's gonna take it off. Yeah, hold on. Even though I had it muted, I don't know why I did that.
Okay, we should be cool now. I'll start that over. The European term porcelain comes from the term. The European term porcelain comes from the old Italian porcellana, which means cowrie shell, and they call it that because of its resemblance to the surface of the shell. The word cowrie comes from the Hindu kaudi. I don't think you share. I don't think you're sharing the screen, Kofi.
All right, my bad, man. Y'all give me just a second, y'all. We acting like amateurs right now. I am anyway. Shoot.
We just having a little technical difficulties.
All right, I'm back on there. Let me know if it's sharing across the screen.
Yeah, it's sharing. Okay, I'm gonna start that one more time. The European term porcelain comes from the Old Italian porcellana,
You
which
sh-
means cowrie
you
shell.
sure it's sharing? You sure it's sharing over there? I don't see it. I see your avatar.
Oh, is it? I don't know if it's sharing on YouTube, but I see it on I see it from my end.
Bro, I'm just messing up everything. I'm messing up your damn bill, man. God damn, man.
Nah, you
Y'all
good,
excuse
man.
me.
We'll get it together.
Oh, all right. I got you. I got it now. I did. I stuck it on. Present to everyone. That's why I don't understand. Okay. I got it locked back on me now. All right. Now we good. We should be good to go now. Let me go back
Okay.
in.
Okay. Yeah, we good to go. Okay, the word cowrie comes from the Hindu Cowdy. We can go to the next slide. The humped thick shell is beautifully colored, often speckled, smooth and glossy. The apertural lips, which open into the first whorl in the shell, are enrolled and may be fine-toothed. Lengths range from 5 millimeters for some species up to 19 centimeters for the Atlantic deer cowrie. I actually have one of those Atlantic deer cowries. That's the image that I'm showing on the slide is the Atlantic deer cowrie. It's supposedly the largest cowrie that it is. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Coach. Seashells as a source, seashells as a food source are rich in protein and trace mineral nutrients. Humans' long encounter with the seashells is small compared with their
You going?
existence in
You
the
going
ocean.
back out again? You going back out again? Yep.
Let me try to go out and come back in, see if that works.
Okay. Y'all stand by just for a second. My brother having some technical difficulties on his end. We want to make sure that he's loud and clear. Ain't nobody hate on nobody, Sean. Sean crazy. Ain't nobody hating on my brother. I ain't trying to sabotage that. But yeah, just give us just a second. We gonna
Okay, how do I sound now?
oh you sound icker. That's excellent. You sound excellent.
Okay, yeah, so hopefully that'll work. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me start this over. Seashells as a food source are rich in protein and trace mineral nutrients. Humans' long encounter with seashells is small compared to their existence in the ocean. According to some scientists, single shell life forms have been discovered fossilized dating back to approximately 500 million years. Cowries have approximately 200 species. Massive breeding habits have prevented them from becoming endangered species, despite their great popularity in various ancient cultures to the present. They can lay from 100 to 1,500 eggs in a single breeding period. They eat mostly algae and dead organic material in the tropical oceans around the coral reef. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Kobe. From the Neolithic period onwards, cowries with their dorsum or rounded back removed made an appearance in ancient Kemet. The shape was achieved by sawing or by abrasion on a rough surface, such as a flat stone, and was probably done to facilitate the stringing of shells as pendants or beads that could have been worn by themselves or as a necklace of several beads together, headbands, girdles, or bracelets. Removal of the dorsum also enables these shells to be displayed together in a large number as a flat chain.
making them convenient to be worn in groups as a belt, for example, or to be sewn into clothing. This firm of modification also ensured that the base of the shell would remain in frontal display. So basically, it's saying they will modify the shell to make it stay in place, as opposed to the round back of the shell and it being flimsy and moving all around. If you flatten the back, it will stay in place. So that's basically what they did for jewelry and belts and girdles and necklaces and so on. You can go to the next slide, Kofi. Ethnographers, cultural historians, and archaeologists alike are in general agreement that the symbolism of the cowrie shell is linked with the appearance of its underside, its lengthwise serrated opening resembling a female vulva or squinting eye. Thus, cowrie shells have been commonly interpreted as amulets intended to protect against sterility and to increase fertility and ward off the evil eye and bring good luck. The elongated opening of the shell on its central side was suggestively associated by many cultures. I'm fucking up. Let me start that sentence over. The elongated opening of the shell on its central side was suggestively associated by many ancient cultures with the female genitalia. As a result, cowries were connected with fertility, pregnancy, and hence the recurrent association of cowrie shells with women and young girls. The relationship between the cowrie amulet and the body part protected by it is clearly demonstrated in the Remetz figurines, predominantly displaying cowries in the pelvic area. And I'm going to show an example of that in a couple of slides. I think it might be next slide, but you can go to the next one.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna see if it's just on my end now, cause you sound like you kind of going in and out again.
Okay.
No, it's a late, but go ahead, man. I'll see if you sound like it. I'll stop you, but it kind of sound like right at the end you're kind of going out.
Okay. All right. Cowries were found in graves of young girls from pre-dynastic times. Archaeological excavations revealed that during the pre-dynastic period, many of the poorest people in Heracleopolis were buried with cowrie shell necklaces. In the Middle Kingdom, red sea cowries occurred strung as beads on a girdle around the hips of female figurines. The recurring and prominent display of cowries in the pelvic area suggests that the shells were not just ordinary decorative beads, but were probably imbued with a function beyond ornamentation. Cowries were occasionally found adorning animals. The Remetz were especially fond of decorating their domestic cats with cowries, suggesting a protective function of these shells with respect to the animal as well. And on the right, I have an example of what I was just talking about. It's pretty hard to see, but if you look at her waist, the waist of this figurine, you see that line, and that's a cowrie shell belt. That's like a cowrie shell girdle belt. And on the bottom,
It was
say it again.
it was it was used for protection, and when it was it used for protection, and the belt was made for the pregnant for female that was pregnant to protect the child and keep the child from harm's way.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Like an amulet, like a magic amulet, like how you use it for its magic powers to keep away evil spirits and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, you can go to the
And
next slide.
yeah,
Okay,
and you know
go
I
ahead.
have You mentioned now. I'm finna stop, but you mentioned on the slide here. You mentioned the Remish buried their dead with Cowrie shell necklaces on. Remember, I was trying the people is called the Da'akba people or the Dara people, and they have some of the same where they actually bury their dead. They in Ghana. They reside in Ghana, the Ivory Coast, and Cote d'Ivoire. And they bury their dead also with the Cowrie shells. They don't actually make the necklaces, but they bury their they're dead with the coral shells as well as I guess they're taking the coral shell. They can't they I guess in some forms that to get over into the afterlife they had to take these coral shells into the crossroads. In some form, I was trying to find out a little bit more information, try to figure out where did these people migrated from. Was they in that region of Ghana that they originate in Ghana, Ivory Coast, or Cote d'Ivoire, uh, or they migrated there from somewhere else. I just hadn't got a chance to look to see if there was some type of similarity there. Then again, it may not be with no similarity there with them burying their dead with coral shells as well. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, it might very well be used that way, or it may be used like it was used in Egypt, as like a an amulet or like a protective type of thing to keep or ward away evil spirits and so on. So yeah, it might be either one of those, man. But okay, in Kemet, cowrie shells were in Kemet, cowrie shells were imitated as early as the Sixth Dynasty. During the Middle Kingdom in Kemet, outstanding imitations of hollow cowries were made of sheet gold, silver, and electrum. Goldsmiths of Kemet also occasionally put bits of metal into the hollow part of the cowrie imitation, causing a jingling, rattling sound when the wearer moved. For the remich, gold and silver added symbolic meaning. Gold was linked to the sun and was symbolically representative of the flesh of the Neteru, whereas silver was associated with the moon and represented the bones of the Neteru. Beads in general, beads in the general shape of cowries, usually termed cowroids, were a
You going in
favorite.
and out again? Kind of going in and out.
Let me see if I can get my headphones. Maybe that'll help.
No, man, I can hear you, man. Kofi, be quiet.
All right, I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead.
Okay. What was that? For the remich, gold and silver added symbolic meaning. Gold was linked to the sun and was symbolically representative of the flesh of the Neteru, whereas silver was associated with the moon and represented the bones of the Neteru. Beads in the general shape of cowries, usually termed cowroids, were a favorite of the remich of the Middle Kingdom and onwards. It should be noted that in Kemet, cowrie imitations have been found so far only in burial contexts. So they made imitation cowries out of sheet gold, metal, and electrum. And a lot of times they would put metal pieces inside of the middle part, the hollow part of these imitation cowries, just so it can make a sound and rattle and jingle or and so on. And also they made cowries out of beads, which I thought that was kind of interesting when I was putting this together. I never heard of none of this. So we can go to the next slide though. And I show right here a picture, image of the the imitation cowries. I don't see the metal piece on the inside, but these are the imitation cowries. It's a 12th dynasty amuletic girdle with cowrie shell imitations and electrum. So this is how it would look. Okay, you go to the next slide, Kobe. Western Africa, and I'm pretty sure that's supposed to say in Western Africa, shell money was usually shell money was usual tender up until the mid 19th century. Before the abolition of the slave trade, excuse me, before the abolition of the slave trade, large shipments of cowrie shells were sent to some of the English ports for reshipment to the slave coast. It was also common in West Central Africa as the currency of the Kingdom of the Congo, called locally Nzimbu. Next slide. On the west coast of Africa, approximately starting in the 14th century, several nations used cowrie shell currencies as a means to acquire goods just as much as gold. Initially, cowrie shells were transported from the Maldives, located in the Indian Ocean, by Arabs. Europeans took notice and were startled that the West Africans, on several occasions, accepted cowrie shells as means of exchange for goods over gold. Eventually, the Dutch and English imported cowrie shells into the gateway of West Africa by way of the Guinea coast. Next slide. As the value of the cowrie was much greater in West Africa than in the regions from which the supply was obtained, the trade was extremely lucrative. In some cases, the gains are said to have been 500%. So they're making five times they money back. The use of the cowrie currency gradually spread inland in Africa. By about 1850, the German explorer Heinrich Barth found it fairly widespread in Kano, Kuka, Gando, and even Timbuktu. Barth relates that in Munioma, one of the ancient divisions of Bornu, the king's revenue was estimated at 30 million shells, with every adult male being required to pay annually 1,000 shells for himself, 1,000 for every pack ox, and 2,000 for every slave in his possession. Next slide. In West Africa, cowrie shells are also worn as jewelry and otherwise used as ornaments or charms. They are viewed as symbols of womanhood, fertility, birth, and wealth. Its underside is supposed by one modern ethnographic author to represent a vulva or an eye. In time, cowrie shells diminished as a monetary means of exchange, but they were spiritually elevated, made sacred by myths, adorned adorned traditional West African people's masks and sculptures. Traditional West African art in general emphasized the human figure as the primary subject, with visual presentations in abstract form to represent an image rather than creating a natural likeness. Art became important in ceremonial contexts. An artistic creation can reflect a multiplicity of meanings to various members in the social network. Okay, you go to the next slide, Kofi. This is a mask. I don't know exactly where this mask is from, but it's a West African mask. I do know that for a fact. Uh, Decorated and adorned with cowrie shells. So see, we see now how uh, they used it for currency. They in Egypt they used it as girdles and amulets. Now we see in West Africa they using it for masks and art and other jewelry as well. So we can go to the next slide. Several forms of cowrie shell divination are distributed broadly throughout West Africa, while there are many variants using 8 to 21 cowrie shells. West African derived forms most commonly use 16 cowrie shells on a prepared table on a mat or on the ground, interpreting the patterns that result, which are known as Odu. Before casting the shells, the priest or priestess invokes and salutes the Orisha and puts questions to them. The Orisha answer the questions by influencing the way the shells fall on the table. And on the right, we see the Opani Fa, which is the divination tray. And you see the Opele Ifa, which is the chain that's made of cowrie shells. And I started to put a video in here about that, but I didn't want to make this presentation too long. But yeah, just like they use the palm nuts, they also use the cowrie shells. Next slide. A divination oracle reading with cowrie shells is a ritual that worshippers in the faith believe can move the veils between the spirit and human world to semi-transparency and open windows and doors for positive change. People of African ancestry who are devotees of their traditional religions believe that cowrie shells act as a catalyst to facilitate personal communication with powerful spirits in their traditional religions. Divination is a dynamic and Divination is a dynamic and complex procedure based on the up and down positions and patterns of the cowrie shells after they are shaken up and dropped on the ground. The position and pattern of the dropped cowrie shells to the ground speak a coded language that priests or priestesses can interpret with insight and wisdom to counsel, encourage, and warn their clients who, who seek personal information and spiritual knowledge. The divination ritual can bring knowledge of a person's past and current conditions so that beliefs, actions, and behaviors can be adhered to or planned to improve or enhance future circumstances. And on the next slide is all my references. Polish archaeology in the Mediterranean. I got the wiki page for the cowrie shells and the wiki page for the shell money, the Journal of African History, Encyclopedia of African Religions, which is one you're gonna see us use a lot. That's a great book. I gotta push that every time I say it.
Go ahead, my bad.
That's all good. And the last one is the diffusion of cowries and Egyptian culture in Africa, which is a good little article to read if you get a chance. But that's pretty much it, man. I think Brother Kofi gonna come after me and touch on a couple of things that I missed out on. So I'm gonna put
Yeah,
myself on mute.
all right, give me 1 second, man. Get my presentation real quick.
Okay.
Y'all give me
Let's
one
see.
second to pull up my presentation.
Let's see if my
Shoot, I thought I. Hold on, let me get it. Am I still sharing my screen?
hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going on YouTube to see actually.
Okay.
Yeah, you share.
All right, let me go in here. I forgot what is it? All right, here it is. Y'all see all them presentations.
Been putting in that work.
Yeah. Peace, Sister Kaba. Peace.
I'm gonna go on mute and see who the hell keep calling me while I'm doing this presentation.
All right. So my brother Satep, can y'all hear me clearly? And I see my presentation out there. I ain't gonna go through my formality. Everybody know as I learn, we all learn. And let's get this culture. Brother Sutek, went through some of the forms of how cowrie shells was used uh, in Africa. He touched on the remich, using cowrie shells in the pre-dynastic period to bury the dead, how they used to make cowrie shell belts for the pregnant women to protect the babies inside the womb. Also, artificial core shells that they made. He also went into where the core shells, which comes to my question, which he kind of already went into. Where did the core shells come from? The coral shells derive from a small snail-like creature native to the Indians in the Pacific Ocean. He said this in one of his slides. These small shells are these, what we're going to talk about, the mollusks. And it says that the coral shells derive from the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. So these are where the coral shells derive from, the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. Now, seashells in general belongs to a vast family of mollusks, which are a myriad of mixed animals. Cowries and cowrie shells are believed to be the first form of universal money. It is a shell, and there are over 250 species of cowrie shells, but only two in particular, the Capira montia, the Capira annulus, if I'm pronouncing that right, are used as money. There are over 250 species of these cowries, the cowrie shells, but there are only two in particular that our ancestors in West Africa use as a currency. So I have the two different kinds over here, what they consider the white and the yellow cowrie shells. So those are the two Pacific. These are where my cursors at. Are the two Pacific cowrie shells, or the two Pacific species of cowries that our ancestors used. Now it says mollusks, and we talk about the creatures, and it was it's in derived from the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So it could be snails, which my brother said snails. It could be squids. It can be oysters. It could be scallops, and it also can be octopus. Now, the attraction of white shells has all of the characteristics required for money. Easy to handle and carry around due to its light weight. And again, I'm just focusing on the aspect. He touched on the various notions of them with the coral shells on the mask, the coral shells on the clothing, the coral shells with the divination system, the coral shells with the different rituals in Africa that they use the coral shells for. And he touched briefly on the money aspect of it. A lot of us know about the money aspect. I'm just going a little bit deeper into the money aspect on the currency, how the coral shells were currency, and so forth. So the attraction of white shells has an all characteristic required for money. It is easy to handle and carry around due to its light weight, non-perishable, good for small and large purchase. Its shapes makes a instant recognizable and difficult to forward. The cores also have very little variations in the size and form, which makes them easy to count. And I got a question mark there. Is it easy to count these core shells? Because you're gonna start to see this currency, how they build up these currency, and then they use. I'll just get into it so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's going to be later on. It's going to become difficult for them to count all these different core shells, especially doing transactions and so forth. All right, here is a picture here. Some individuals here. Uh, you can see them right here with the multiplicity of core shells down here, and they are counting 1,000 core shells right here. They were often threaded into bracelets or long strings of 40 or packed into punches to form greater quantities. For large payments, the shells could be tossed into the basket and weighed to determine their value. 40 cowries made one string. 50 strings made one head, 2,000 cowries total. 10 heads made one bag, 20,000 cowries total. Now, This is what they mean when we talk about the strings made into strings. The cowrie shells were made into strings. These strings, uh, they would take the cowrie shells and it actually looked like a necklace. And they would string the cowrie shells through these strings. You know what I'm saying? And going back here where it says 40 cowries, which I think this might have been, let me see. The one here, this may be 40 cowries on the string. Uh, which way be value? I don't know what the value may be of those 40 cowries on that one string. Then again, you have 50 strings made, make one head equals 2,000 cowries. So I don't know what this particular value of this cowrie, these strings of cowrie shells will be. Now, history of the shell money. Caravans and Arabic traders were probably the first to introduce the cowrie shells into West Africa, possibly as early as the 18th century. By the 15th century, the shells circulated as money. Now they're talking about these Arabs. My brother Sutek mentioned the Arabs coming in, possibly coming in with these cowrie shells. Now, again, the cowrie shells derive from the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. So someone had to bring it in to West Africa. So they saying that these Arab traders were probably the first to introduce the cowrie shells, excuse me, into West Africa, possibly in the early 16th century. I read some where some say the 14th century. um, but by the 15th century, the shells circulated as money, especially the Empire of Mali. But it was only with the Portuguese, the French, the British, and the Dutch that Africans found itself under an avalanche of these shells. So during this period of time, the French, the British, the Dutch, they came up under a rapid amount or a tremendous amount of these shells. The Europeans had seen fondness and certain African tribes had for the little shells and helped to make them the main currency in the trade of slaves, gold, and many other things. The Dutch traders reported that African merchants in Dahomey in the present day Benin who were unfamiliar with paper and writing were highly suspicious of the European promissory notes, checking the frequency to make sure that the writing had disappeared, leaving them worthless scraps of paper. Similar to European traders were at first worried of trading their manufactured good for shells until they saw that the Cowrie shells were widely accepted as money throughout the region. So the Europeans began to use the Cowrie shells later on to trade uh, with the Africans in West Africa as they seen that um, I mean, those in West Africa use this seed for some type of currency, for some type of wealth, for some type of status. So they started trading with the Africans as well with the Cowrie shells. For a long time, the Cowries coexisted with many other forms of currency across West Africa, silver coins and gold dust, but also salt bars, brass, copper rods, horseshoe-shaped millers, cloth currency, beads, and etc. So during the time that currency was the Cowrie shells were currency. They had other different currency as well rotating in the society. And again, they had silver coins, they had gold dust, they had salt bars, brass, copper rods, horseshoe shaped millers, cloth currency, and beads. Beads was also a currency as well. By the 18th century, the cowries had become the currency of choice along the trade routes of West Africa and conserved its status as a means of payments and a symbol of wealth and power until the 20th century. Everyday uses. In small villages, trades was the elders responsible and privileged. The goods that villagers produced, excess grain, honey from becking bees, cloth, forged metals, etc., was sold and the process stored in the common funds as obligatory contribution. Elders used to store cowries uh, to buy necessities like tools, medicines, and cattle for a community. So they purchased cattle as well with this currency. Much of the trade and villagers themselves did was in the form of barter and involved no money. And we know this what we did early on. We trade or we barter with each other. You may have uh wheat over here, I may have honey over here. So what we would trade. We would trade. I will give you my honey for your wheat, so forth. And involve no money and a sack of peanuts in exchange for cooking pots, a hoe for a nice biscuit. Trading on a large scale was a speciality of a few groups, the Hassa, the Dayuli, and the Yasa especially. They engaged in bulk commodities bartering that eventually ended up in long distance trade with cowrie shells. Here is a picture here. Individual. I guess he's gonna swap out uh his cowrie shells for whatever this individual has in his basket. Um, Europeans, the demonetized of the cowries. Europeans had once used, and it says that in one of the previous slides, it said by the 18th century, uh, the cowrie sales became one of the main currencies. Now, again, they had other currencies that was floating in the society during the 16th, 17th century, which I just showed a while ago. And but by 18th century, it became one of the main currency, and then by the 20th century, it started to phase out. So let's see why the demonetizing of the cowrie shell. The European had once used the cowries eagerly. Replacing the shells with European currency would have been very costly. Besides, most thought the cowries would eventually die out a quick death, but it did not. But the shells was inconveniently. The cowries was cumbersome to the store compared to banknotes, and counting large numbers of them was impressive. Uh, these challenges was not insurmountable, of course, but the French in particular wanted to divert the trade from the British Gold Coast to the colony in Ivory Coast, which was which was one added reason for them forcing their currency, the French franc, onto their colony. So now the French is in this area, and the French is want to impose upon them their French franc, their own currency. Now, the colonizer had particularly hard time getting the people to accept new, more centralized forms of currency. For one thing, the West African was accustomed to the multiple currency coexisting in the market, had no problem with the ideal. And again, the society current the car shells became the main currency, but they had other currency that was floating around. The horseshoe, they had uh, the bees, some form of clothing was uh, a form of currency, and etc. So they had no problem at first with the colonizer, the French that came in and colonized these areas, with applying their own currency, this French franc, because they already had other currencies earlier on that was floating in their society as well as the cowrie shell. So they had no problem in the beginning, but just as adding one more. But when the French prohibited the use of the shells as money around 1907, they had started to outlaw and prohibit the shell use, the cowrie shells use around 1907. The elders resisted, refusing to include the new money in their hoards or to use it in the ceremonies instead of cowries. Some people kept both currencies. Others simply thought the franc was a nuisance and refused to use the coins, and the notes. So when they prohibited it, especially the elders, they did not want to get rid of the cowrie shells, and then they used cowrie shells a lot uh, in their rituals. Here is some of the francs. I forgot to put the coin. I wanted to show you the coins that they was using, and also this tax that I'm finna talk about. They began to start to tax the West Africans, the French did, because the circulation of the Cowrie shells was still going on in a society, even though that the French, the colonizers, prohibited the Cowrie shells as a currency or being used. The West Africans still use the Cowrie shells, and then they began to force this certain type of tax, what they call hut tax. And I meant to show these currency coins that they use, that was circulating to pay their taxes. The French had imposed a tax system on the new colony. Between 1899 and 1902, half of the taxes came in the form of cowries and other currencies. By 1907, one third was still being paid in other forms than the official francs. The prohibitions on the cowries didn't do much to change the people habits, though. Sentimentally, for the cowries combined with the enormous stocks of shells and the areas and the discrepancies, of the French francs. Wherever the cards retain its value, contributions to the resistance of West Africa to adopt the new currency until the 1940s. Cowrie shells no longer serve a currency in West Africa, but trace remains of their history as a form of money. In Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, people still occasionally give alms to the poor in the form of cowries, either alone or mixed with coins. Sometimes traders specialize in selling items such as cowries as ritual offerings. People across West Africa may still pay for ritual services using the little white shells. And again, they use the Cowrie shells for their mask, as Brother Sutek talk about. They use them for their clothing and certain. These was different. The Cowrie shells was used in the form of different ceremonies, divination, and such and such. So Cowrie shells was very important in West Africa culture, as well as in Kemet, as Brother Sutek demonstrated and showed some of the imagery there. The skyrocketing curry prices are now a scandal. Elder men who wanted to buy them for rituals uses find themselves competing either with those who produce craft items for sale to tourists or with young men who seek curries to trim costumes that have become popular for the stage use. So even now that the curry shells is no longer a currency, and the elders again are still using them, and it is still important because it's so many different symbolic meanings behind the chorus shells, and this is why they use the chorus shells in the rituals that they have. So now the elders are trying to get a hold of these chorus shells or pay for these chorus shells, and now the chorus shells have skyrocketed due to tourists coming in, and people are gravitating and selling them to make money by selling the tourist car shells, and the young men who use them for different cartoons on popular stages. Now in Ghana, the national currency is the cedi, which is the Akantois word for Cowrie. The coin for the 20 cedi features the image of the beloved shell in 1991. Now, Brother Sutek talked about during the pre-dynastic period, the Remich, this was during the pre-dynastic period now, that they buried their dead with the Cowrie shell necklace. We know Cowrie shells, as Brother Sutek also mentioned, was used as amulets. So the Cowrie shells was used for protection. And the people, the Dagara people that's in the Dara people, they were they resided in Ghana. Like I said earlier, they resided in Africa and Cote d'Ivoire, and these three areas that they what's the name, they also buried their dead with coral shells. I'm not sure if they had coral shell necklaces that they buried their dead with, but they also buried their dead with Cowrie shells in Ghana as well. The West African Central Bank. Hold on, let me plug my computer up. The West African Central Bank, the BCAAO, the Bank Bakwa Central des East. I'm not gonna read that because that's in French, because I can't read French. Has its headquarters in Benin. The modern-looking corporated building is decorated with coral shells the size of the windows. Now here is a coin, or what we would the CD coin, the Ghana 20 CD coin featuring the coral shells. So you can see here, this is their motto that's on the coin, and I don't know if it's Ghana justice and freedom or Ghana freedom and justice, but this is their motto over there, and you can see where they immolated on the coin the coral shell in the middle of this coin. Here is the bank that's in Benin, the central bank that's in Benin that uses the coral shells, these huge coral shells, um, dang man, on the window, on the window. Baby, somebody blowing out there. All right, these are my references. I just wanted to go a little bit further. My brother spoke a little bit on the currency, but I wanted to go a little bit further with the currency. He already had spoke about where it originated at. I wanted to, rectify me, uh, reiterate that the Cowrie shells was brung into West Africa and it derived from the Indian and the Pacific Ocean. I also wanted to go over wow uh go over um other means of currency that was used during the same time the Cowrie shells were, and how the French came in and prohibited Cowrie shells, and they revolted against the French and did not want to oh, thank you, and did not want to get rid of their currency. But these are my references. Flags for the Spirit, Encyclopedia of African Religion, same reference that my brother used that he showed a while ago. Van Dien 1, 2007, January Cowrie shells, the trade in currency retrieved on May the 4th, the National Bank of Belgium. This is from the Belgium Museum. Uh, I got those pictures, them images that I showed out of a digital collection that was also from the Belgium Museum, uh, and this other website dealing with the Cowrie shells as gifts from God. You outside blowing the horn? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I hope y'all appreciated these presentations that me and Brother Sutik did. Um, we appreciate y'all for tuning in to the show. Uh, Sean, you still on here? Sutek, Sean, still on here?
Yeah, man, I'm good, man. I appreciate y'all going in on the cowrie shells. I don't want to add anything to the bill. Just excited that y'all got to put this out today, and I got to be a part of the live stream as I was unable to do so yesterday. So appreciate you, brother, for putting the work in.
No problem.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Uh, I appreciate you too, Kobe, because I just I just scratched the surface. You kind of went a lot deeper into it, so that was a lot better than what I was even expecting to do just myself. So yeah, I appreciate that, man.
No, you did a excellent job too, man. I just wanted to touch a little bit more on the monetary aspect and and so forth. Um, so we appreciate
Making me hungry over there.
y'all. Oh, I'm hungry too, man. But we we appreciate y'all, man, for tuning in to Kofi Pie TV. We appreciate y'all for supporting us. Um, we're going to continue to drop in information. So Get mad if you want to get mad, but we still we still gonna keep busting you in the head with this information. We'll be back next week. With another. I don't know if it's gonna be a discussion or a few slides from each individual from the Kofi Paisa affiliated and family members. Um, the origin on Black Power. So we're gonna be either having a discussion or it's gonna be a few slides from each of us talking about the origin of Black Power. Where did the origin of Black Power come from? So tune in next week for that powerful discussion slash maybe a presentation uh, on next week. Also, please go support me and check out my articles. I dropped an article yesterday. Um, I don't know what the name of it is, something, but it's dealing with acknowledging someone's existence and asking the question: do we acknowledge someone's existence slash being? So I talk about in the article, which I did a presentation on a while back on the Master Warrior Can on the Cowrie people. Now it's not the article is not specifically based all around the Cowrie people because I ask the question about how many of us walk past each other and we don't speak, we don't acknowledge. And that's not just only accustomed to the Caribbean people in East Africa, but in most ethnic groups the same. I talk about the Zulu people a little bit in their greetings. You know, they're greeting each other and acknowledging someone's existence and their culture. Um, in order to exist, someone has to acknowledge you, acknowledge your being. So I touched that a little bit at the end. I talk about how important greetings are, even in the business. So I give examples, even in business, that train their employees special in these convenience stores and other levels of business, how important it is to greet and what is greetings, what is posture. And then I go into the certain different forms of greetings that the Cowrie people give um, to each other, the different forms of greetings that do it specifically due to time, due to age, uh, due to how old each other is, and due to eldership. They have different greetings for those four different variations of greetings, and they may change at any time. One young man might become an old man. I'll talk about that a little bit in the article. It's a nice article put together, so please go out and check that article out. And I did one 2 weeks ago prior to that. Does the conscious community have good character, and are we practicing good character according to African traditions? Where I talk about the conscious community, it's well put together, and the role. What is the role of elder? What is the elder and what is the role of an elder? So those are three, and it is on www.kofipaisai Kofi Paisai written compositions.wordpress.com where you can check that out. I've been dropping one every 2 weeks, but I dropped one this Saturday. I'm gonna drop another one this Friday. I'm not gonna wait 2 weeks to drop this, and it is called "Who is the Shimshu Haru Research Team and what is their first contribution together?" So I'll basically be talking about who was the Shimshu Haru. So I'll talk about those three individuals, their qualifications, um, and I'll be talking about how all of this uh, Kemet means black land, Kemet means black people, actually got started. I talk about that in the beginning of my article. Before I go into who is the Shimshu Haru, I kind of give us timestamps and dates on things, and then go into them, give you the qualifications, and then I talk about their first contribution, which is the first book that they wrote, a contribution to the debate of the meaning of the place named Kemet. So I give talk about it each chapter, which is 4 chapters, and then after I talk about it, I give you an excerpt in the book. So that's going to be a powerful article. So be on the lookout for that article. Next Saturday, I'll be dropping it next Saturday, and then I'll be doing one more, probably be about 2 weeks after that, and then I'm gonna hold tight for about a month because I'll be doing something else for the month of July. I'll be doing something for the next until November, but the month of July I want to be locked in and get covered an aspect. And once I get halfway done, I'll share it with everybody what I'm doing and what I'm hopefully planning to come out before Thanksgiving in November. So I want to talk about it now, and then it don't come out. I want to at least get halfway done or over halfway done before I speak about it. But that's all I have, man. And
So while
and,
COVID, while COVID is on that hiatus, uh, my next presentation I'm working on, it'll probably be my next one. Don't quote me on that, but more than likely it'll be my next one. It'll be called the Arab racist thought of Black Africans in medieval times. So basically, I'll just be dealing with and touching on the racist thought of these pale Arabs and how they thought of us in medieval times. So I think that'll be interesting. I don't think I ever really heard too many people touch on that. And like I said, we got to start getting into this Islam and these Arabs. So that's what I'll be doing. One more time is the Arab racist thought of the Black African in medieval times. So that'll be coming soon.
yeah, I'm finna put that in there right now, by brother Baraka. Give me just a second. I'm finna put it in there where you can go check out the my few articles. But I'm not the only one writing in the Masa. You got it's in there right there, brother Barak. Let me know if you got it, man. Um, got the article. But yeah, check it out, man. Y'all check it out. Check those articles out, man, and let me know what y'all think about those articles that I'm writing. And like I said, I'm not the only one in the Masi writing. You got brother Inherit Sean Calfunny, who's also writing and actually inspired me to get off my butt and start, publishing some work. So the last one he did some surrounding the book as well. Well, actually surrounding the ASCAP conference that's surrounded around um, the debate on does the around Kemet means black, Kemet means black people. So go check that article out. So after he wrote that, he didn't wrote many before that, but just his hard work kind of inspired me. And that same day I read it is the same day I started working uh, back on my first article, and from there I've been writing every since. So I got 3 articles out that I'm put out in the last month. I have another one coming this Friday, and then after that I have another one. I don't know exactly what the name of it's going to be after I publish this one this Friday, but it's probably going to be raw. Um, what is it? He kind of gave me an idea for it.
Raw data.
Raw data, raw data, but it's gonna be raw data something something. It's gonna be based on the book that I already have completed, the raw document, the understanding of raw and its many manifestations. I have a book, and I took some information from that book, and I did a show maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago called the 75 Names of Ra on Kofi Paisai TV. So I may do an article, and the article gonna be around why the book has not been published. I know people been looking at wanting the book, and then people been few people seen some of the stuff in the book early on, and that was some of my Seshu Ma'ani Melanetra family, but they didn't see the end result. And maybe I'm gonna do something on why the book was finished in 2007, and I still haven't put it out. And then I give some brief, detailed information uh, in the book. I give some information in the book and put it in the article, and that'd probably be the last article uh, for maybe a couple of weeks. Maybe it's going to be, I know, at least a month, because like I say, I'm going to be working on something real heavy for the next month and try to get that some of it accomplished, and then each month up until hope to be finished in October, and then maybe in October I announce what it is and when it will be possibly dropping or whatever, or when I'm getting ready to turn in the file. But again, appreciate y'all, man, for tuning in, man. Um, Again, y'all could have been doing anything else with y'all time, but y'all tune in, man, to listen to what we had to say, and we humbly appreciate that. Please continue to support us. Please support the platforms that we own. Please support the Session Ani Mother group. Please support Kofi Paisai TV. Please support the Mossy Warrior Clan. We're gonna continue to bring you this solid information without any confusion at all. And again, we don't mind being critiqued. We keep our sources up there. You can vent and go through our sources. That is the only way that we'll be able to learn. So again, we want to say well, I want to say Moriri, which means Moriri. I want to say do out, man. So we out, man, and we'll see y'all next week at 6 p.m. on Kofi Paisai TV. We'll see you Sunday on Mossy Warrior Clan. Sean, you doing something on the Mossy next week? I don't know if Sean's still on here, but be tuned in. I think Sean will be back up on the Mossy next week because I am tired. But we out, man. Peace, man. Peace and black African power, family.